I googled how to stop spending money, and things like avoid debt, do no spending challenges, budget came up. And let me tell you, as somebody who used to love spending the money, okay, none of these things work for me. If this is something that you're trying to do, is to stop spending your money on things that don't add any value for you, things that are totally unnecessary, keep watching this video. The first thing that you need to do if you want to stop spending money on unnecessary things is figure out why exactly you are prone to spend your money on things that don't add value for you. For some people, it could be that they grew up in families where they couldn't afford a lot of the things that they wanted. For other people, it could be a need to impress the Joneses, right? To like show other people what they've got. It could also be because you hang around friends or people who are constantly associating being in their group with having a certain lifestyle, and you feel like you need to live that lifestyle to stay in that group. Like there's so many reasons why. It could also be that you do not have a good budgeting system. Like whatever that is, you need to figure out first and foremost why exactly you struggle with overspending. For me personally, I struggled with overspending because I didn't really understand how money worked. So I would save like so much of my money and then I'll go spend everything carelessly because I just never got the message of how to save money in a way that was consistent. And if this is something that you struggle with, like saving money in a way that is consistent, I'm going to link a video up here or in my description for you to watch if you struggle with saving money. But the first thing is to really figure out where this need to spend money carelessly comes from. For some of us, it's also like we watched our family members, like our mom or our dad, spend money carelessly, and we kind of picked up that habit without even knowing that we picked it up. So you need to start first by sitting down somewhere with a piece of paper and a pen and asking yourself, why do I spend money excessively? Where is this coming from? And just writing down the things that come to mind for you. Don't question them, don't challenge them, don't try to explain them away. Just write them down. It would blow your mind what you will find just by doing this exercise. Let's say it's coming from a place of, trying to impress people, trying to get people's validation through what you have. You now want to go online and start to look for information that helps you deal with this thing. There are so many people on Reddit, on YouTube, on TikTok, on Instagram who are talking about seeking validation through material things. You can go and start to learn how to heal these aspects of yourself, how to stop living life that way. This is so important because even if you go to learn how to budget or avoid debt, at the end of the day, our subconscious mind is still what controls our behavior. So regardless of all of those technical things that we're doing, if we haven't dealt with like the subconscious aspect of that spending habit, we're going to end up falling right back into it. Next step, number 2, is defining your why. Why exactly do you want to stop? What is your motivation for quitting overspending? A good way to think about this is, what am I going to spend the money I'm going to be saving when I'm not overspending on? Where is that money going to be going? What does stopping this habit of overspending do for me? Like, what exactly will it do for me? I'm in the process of losing weight, and when I started my journey, cutting out processed food, cutting out excess like Chick-fil-A and Panda Express and all of those things, for me, it was thinking about what I really wanted for myself. Like, how did I want to look when it came to my body? How did I want to feel when it came to my body? And I understood that giving up those things was giving me room to really create what I wanted for myself. It didn't mean that I would no longer eat processed food or that I would entirely cut out sweet things in my life. It just meant that if I really wanted the things that I wanted for myself, to look the way that I want to look, to feel the way I want to feel, these things just do not serve me. They're not going to serve me. But I genuinely had to want to look that way, not because people were telling me that I was adding weight, or because society, kind of prefers slim women, but because I wanted to look that way. I would see these girls on Pinterest and I'm like, oh my gosh, I love how she looks. This is the body that I want for myself. So it was personal. It wasn't superficial. It wasn't based on what society was telling me. It was personal. The same thing goes for you. What is personal for you when it comes to your overspending habit? Like, why do you really want to stop? What will that do for you? Is it going to help you become the person that you want to become? And if so, in what way? Is it going to help you save more money? If so, what exactly do you want to use that money to do? So we want to know the source and start working on this source of overspending, but we also need to get clear on the motivation for stopping. Like, why do we want to stop? A lot of the time we will set these goals for ourselves just because that is what everybody says that we need to do, and that is not true. Like, that is, for me, when I set goals that way, I just end up not following up with them. The next step for you to stop overspending is to start paying yourself first. Okay, so this is where, saving, investing, having an emergency fund account, this is where these things come into play. Is you want to start first by deciding that for every amount of money that comes into your pocket, you're going to start by saving 10% of that money to an emergency fund, 10% to an investing account, and 10% to your savings account. Like, you're going to send 10 of that money out. Or at the minimum, if you don't earn a lot yet, you're going to save 10% of whatever it is that comes into your account before you go to spend on anything. When you pay yourself first, something happens to your psyche with your money. And as you continue to do this over time, it keeps becoming a habit, and you find yourself leaning more into, okay, I'm saving this amount, I want to save more. How do I achieve that goal? The fourth thing I'm going to mention is really reviewing if you are overspending or you're just an under earner. Okay, so a lot of the time we would earn money, the money would disappear, and we'd be like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm overspending so much. But in reality, maybe you are not earning enough to both spend on your needs, your core needs, and to spend on your wants. This happens to a lot of people. You end up seeing yourself, broke after you earn every salary, and then you think, oh my gosh, I need to stop spending. Do you really need to stop spending, or do you need to earn more money? Easiest way to figure out where you belong is to track your expenses, track where your money is going, track what you are doing with your money. If you're someone who you spend so much of your money on your bills that the little that you have and you want to go out and just hang out with your friends, the money is gone, and then you feel like, oh my gosh, I spent so much money. No, you are an under earner because you're spending so much of your money on your needs, your bills, debt, and all of those things that your actual wants are not being served. However, if you track your expenses for the past 30 days and realize that you're spending so much of your money on your wants, but you're not also spending enough on your needs. So by the time your needs come around, you don't have any money to serve them because you've either spent so much on your wants, then you are an overspender. So you want to really analyze where you belong to before you jump into immediately thinking, oh my gosh, I'm an overspender, and then start to overstretch yourself when it comes to saving money. Following the principle of paying yourself first is to automate everything. If you're living in a country where you can call your bank or walk into your financial institution and ask them to automate so that every single time money hits your bank account, 10% of that money goes to your savings, do it. Just get it done. Every single thing that you automate makes it easier for you to not think about, doing whatever that thing is. So for me, using this budgeting method called 10-10-10-70, it will be to automate so that 10% of my money goes to my savings, 10% of my money goes to my emergency fund, 10% goes to my investment account. I don't see it, it just goes. And whatever I have left in my bank account, that is what I'm going to live on. The next tip I would mention to help you reduce overspending is for you to realize every time money enters your account that entire money doesn't belong to you. When we get paid our salary, when someone gives us cash, we're like, yep, I got money's in my account, blah blah blah. Like, you feel like you have so much money. In that moment, you're not remembering that you have debt to pay off, or you have bills to pay, or you have all of these things that you need to put money towards. You're not remembering those things and being conscious of what you're spending on, because you just have this feeling of, I have money. Your mind is like, oh yeah, well, I have the money to pay for that. Remembering first and foremost that the money is not your own, it will put you in a frame of mind not to go crazy with how much you're spending. So always remember this principle. The money that hits my bank account is not my own yet until I have put my savings, investing, emergency fund account, I paid off my bills and all of those things. Then we can chill. Then we can be like, okay, what do we have left in the bank? Okay, this is the money that we can now figure out like what we want to go crazy on with it. But when money hits your bank account first, make sure that you have satisfied all the core needs that money needs to meet before you decide to flex with it, because it's not your own money yet. The next tip I would mention is called conscious spending. Every single thing I've mentioned can play into conscious spending, but a key part of conscious spending that's really helped me are spending pauses. This is when if I want to buy something, instead of just going out and buying that thing, I'll take a second to maybe put it in like my shopping basket, write it down somewhere, just taking a second instead of just going straight to buy the thing, just taking a second to think about the thing that I want to buy. Really ask yourself if this is a priority, if this is something we can afford to buy now. Ask yourself questions like, is this going to be an asset or liability? When you ask yourself those questions, you're stopping to make sure that, okay, yes, this thing I'm trying to spend makes sense. I'm not overspending money. I'm actually spending in a way that will be beneficial to me. You're taking the pause to do that. Following conscious spending is the rule of 3 that I use when it comes to buying things, which is, if we cannot buy it 3 times over, we're not buying it. If we cannot pay for that thing 3 times over and still be able to meet our needs and live the life that we want to live comfortably, we are not paying for that thing. Like, this is one of those things that has saved me so much stress. Recently, we were thinking about, renting an apartment, and we just moved to a very expensive city. And as we were looking up at apartments, I was looking at the rent, and I'm like, by the time we add rent and bills, we would be at $4,200 just to pay rent and bills. And I'm like, can we afford to pay this 3 times over and still be comfortable just to live our lives? If we pay that 3 times over, between I and my husband, we would have very little left for us to actually live, pay other bills, and live our lives every single month. And so this was the guiding principle in choosing what our budget would be when it comes to the apartment that we're going to live in. So whether it's a designer sleeper, whether it's a clothes, whether it's vacation, if you can't afford to pay it 3 times over, leave it. If you can afford to pay it 3 times over, but it would now mean you would not be able to do anything else because that's all you'll be paying for, don't do it. This is called the rule of 3. It's a rule that has saved me a lot of financial heartache. And finally, this is one of the most powerful principles I have learned about when it comes to overspending. It is defining what your rich life is and making sure that when it comes to spending, you're spending more towards your rich life and everything else you are spending less. I noticed that I spent a lot of my money on eating out. So the question I asked myself when it came to spending on eating out is this something that I genuinely enjoy? Does this help me create the life that I want to live for myself? And if yes, if the answer is yes to eating out, it means that if I'm spending $200 a month eating out, I would have to find other places that are not as important to me where I'm spending that money and cut them out. So it's like identifying the things that are really important to you, the things that make up the life that you want, and then saying, okay, if 1, 2, or 3 things are important, I'm then just not going to spend so much on these other things. I once met a woman who goes on vacation 3 times a year with her husband, but they don't have a luxury car. They didn't live in a luxury house for the longest time because those things were not important to them. What was important to them was the ability to go on vacation. So they were able to spend on those things but save like crazy on everything else. So figure out the things that you really really enjoy spending on. Like if it's 1 or 2, 3 things, fine, keep those things, but then get really frugal about spending on other areas in your life. This is essentially what the principle of your rich life means when it comes to spending. I first got this principle from Ramit Sethi. I think he's the one that actually started talking a lot about this, but for me personally, it changed the way I think about spending money. I hope this video has been super helpful for you. Thank you for watching. Bye.